Good evening. I'd like to call a meeting to order. It's the October 26th, 2011 meeting of the Lowell Conservation Commission. If I remind you all, if you have a cell phone or a pager, kindly turn it off or to vibrate. If it goes off during the meeting, you'll be asked to leave. Moving on to the agenda and business. New business is a notice of intent. Michael Harkins Real Estate, Inc., concerning DEP file number 2060683, the project location being 279 Pawtucket Street. It's a private way improvement, also known as Falls Street, and the construction of 2 single-family houses. I believe, Mr. Pesnola, this is your project. If you could kindly identify yourself for the record.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission. For the record, Joe Pesnola from Hancock Associates, representing Harkins Real Estate. The project before you is a residential 2-lot subdivision. Current lot is about 35,000 square feet, has an existing home that's in disrepair. It's a 3-family home right up on Pawtucket Street on 279. On the right-hand side is Falls Street. Falls Street is an old way that had made access to the canal. It was originally subdivided back in the 20s, created but never really built. In the 80s, when Lowell Heritage Park, when land was transferred from Locks and Canals to the Commonwealth, there was a portion down in the back along the canal proper that was transferred to the state. So that's in the ownership of the state. But the section that we're improving on Falls Street is still there. So we've been working with the city and staff on the details of that. With regard to your commission and the jurisdiction, we have 2 items. We have the canal, the land under. There's really no BVW associated with it. So we've delineated the beginning of that based on the canal wall. And then we're depicting on that the 50-foot and the 100-foot from there. And there's also floodplain. Floodplain's a little interesting. It was actually a surprise to me that the canal in this section doesn't have a floodplain that's got an elevation assigned to it. The river does. And as you know, the river's floodplain is gradient as it moves through that section of Lowell, but the canal itself does not. And in fact, if you graphically represent it on the plan as we have, it's not following the contours, nor can it be adjusted to follow the contours in accordance with FEMA's guidance on making those adjustments. So what we've shown it is purely graphical, and what we're purporting to the commission is in that area we're only making cuts. So if there's storage to be had there, then we're not adversely affecting that storage. The plans are to establish a more defined roadway, to pave it, to curb it on one side with the elevation sloped, cross slope from right to left, and that's to preserve some of the access that the Sisters of Charity of Ottawa have on the right-hand side. They've got a parking lot there on top of a retaining wall, and then below that they've got some access into the back of their property. And then develop 2 house lots, each having 4,500 square feet on the left-hand side, and would grade it in a manner that would terrace each of the lots, would convert the 3-family to, right now the plan was a 2-family, and create a lot for that. And then the 2 lots would be terraced down the hill as we're moving towards the canal, with the roadway pitched at about 8%. And that's about the natural, that's what it's essentially pitched at now, but it would be more formalized. We're calling for porous pavement driveways, but the roadway itself would be conventional pavement. And for drainage, we're going to put a double catch basin, hooded deep sump catch basin. There is no formal drainage out there now. So we'd put that catch basin, that would go to a grit separator, or a oil grit separator, sized in accordance with DEP's standards or guidelines, and then that would go into an infiltration system along the side of Lot 3, providing us the attenuation, providing us the treatment, and the recharge, all in accordance with the DEP stormwater regulations. We're providing 44% TSS removal prior to infiltration, and the infiltration gets us the balance to bring us to the 80%. We've done some soil testing down there. There is some fill. There's certain amounts of that fill would have to be removed under the infiltration system. And our plans call for that. And underlying that, there is suitable material for that, and a suitable offset to the seasonal high groundwater to the bottom of our system, so the system would function. That in brief is the project. It's essentially a buffer zone filing with the floodplain nuance, but again, it's a little unclear. If I had to, I didn't want to get into doing a full hydrogeological, hydraulic study of the entire Merrimack watershed for this little project, but if I had to guess, floodplain up at the falls is 103. If something were to happen in the locks, the controls, just let that flood down the canal, then we'd have 103, but theoretically there'd be a gradient drop there, and you'd have the canal wall. It would drop over the canal wall into the river proper, so it wouldn't be 103. I think it'd be more like 102, 101. Regardless of all that, we are showing a cut within the graphical representation, and a cut up fairly high, elevation 104-ish. So we think that the commission could find that we meet the performance standards outlined in the regulations. Be happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Pisnola, just to be clear, when you say the elevation at the falls, it's the Pawtucket Falls, is at 103, adjusted to the city of Lowell datum, and your plan is using, I'm assuming, the city of Lowell datum elevations.
Yes.
Yeah, so that would be 47.8. It's
right.
55.2.
55.2 is
right.
the conversion.
Which would put, I mean, looking at your plan, that would 47.8 would pretty much be some of your infiltration area would be impacted, but other than that, almost the rest of the site is outside of that particular floodplain. I guess I'm just a little curious as to why, when you say the graphical representation, you're the FEMA overlay on the city GIS, or on the GIS, is that what you're referring to?
Yes, just,
okay.
Well, we take the image from FEMA and marry it to our survey, and then you kind of put it down on the ground where it comes out. Now, that's obviously the scaling on the FEMA maps is small, so that's got some margin of error to it. I mean,
the Northern Canal drops before this area, and then it drops again after. So the elevations are, I guess, somewhat different from the Merrimack River.
Yeah, I mean, the canal wall is at 30, on our plan is at 36. And the sister wall on the other side is about the same. There's the island there between the river and the canal. It's
Right.
fairly big. There's a walkway on it before you get to the University Bridge. But that's what I'm saying. If we were theoretically flooded to that elevation 47, there'd be 10 feet of unrestrained water heading over that canal wall down into the river, which is considerably lower down, in that area of the bridge.
I'm trying to recall, and I don't believe that area was underwater in 2005.
No.
So it's, and I
There's
think,
there's no evidence that is, and
and I think the Franco-American School is at a lower elevation too, so, than this particular area, but I could be wrong on that. That's just based on a casual observation. I guess I have two main questions. The reason for using porous pavement on the driveways only, what was that?
city engineer likes it, likes to see that we try to implement some lid methodology wherever we can, and something we added to the plan to reduce the total amount of storage we had to provide in the infiltration system.
Okay. And lastly, would you be able to include in your plan the distance to, I guess it would be the southern wall of the northern canal, and also the northern canal, it doesn't really show on your plan, but it does outfall back into the Merrimack River around the elbow here somewhere. If you could just show a distance back to the closest point to the Merrimack River on your plan.
Okay, we can do that.
And again, a tape measure would be more than adequate there, and if it's over 100 feet, then just indicate, if you stretch the tape out to 100 feet and, and it's well beyond that.
Yep, just
it
to make
very
sure
well
we're-
could be, it would be nice to have that, because that's the major resource here, so.
Yeah, certainly, we can add that. I apologize for that
No,
not
that's-
being on there. That really should be on there to define
That's
where we are versus the riverfront.
Right now, I have no further questions. Commissioner Chalupa?
I just had a question about the proposed two-family house. Their driveway is going to be on Pawtucket Street? Like, they have two driveways, is that correct?
There's an existing driveway on Pawtucket today. There's a two-story garage that's at the end of that driveway, and our plans are to cut that driveway short and raise that garage building. Then we are providing 2 additional spaces off of Falls for the two-family, so that we comply with the zoning requirement for 4 parking spaces.
Oh, I see, okay. And my other question was, you have some stormwater management, maintenance logs. Who's going to do the inspection?
Because we're developing this as a private road, it won't be turned over to the city. The maintenance will be the responsibility of the homeowners association. We have provided to the city solicitors a homeowners association documentation, and the other pertinent legal documents with that. Included in there is a provision that if that maintenance operation of the roadway, repairs to the roadway doesn't get done, then the city can step in and lien the properties, do the work and lien the properties, so there's a kind of a stopgap. But the homeowners, the 3 homeowners, will be responsible for that main operation and maintenance.
Is it like an existing association, or they will become an association?
They will become an association.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Varnum?
The infiltration system, is that on Lot 3, or is that on a separate area?
No, it's on Lot 3, it'll be within an easement. On Lot 3, that will be established when we do the subdivision plan. But none of that easement area was used in the calculation of the zoning minimum required usable open space. So it's we've satisfied that on the upper plateau. We've got a proposed retaining wall on the lower plateau on Lot 3 will all be in a drainage easement.
So will there be nothing, nothing will be allowed to be planted or built on that section? Or?
But nothing built. Planting would have to be cautious of, not adversely impacting the system. So no big trees.
Will there be a document written up that will spell that out?
Yeah, the easement, there'll be an easement document that will be in the deed for that Lot 3, but it also will be part of the documentation for the homeowners association, because it gives the homeowners association the right to go onto that easement, to maintain the system, inspect the system, repair, replace the system. So they're the benefactors of that easement. So that'll all be spelled out in the legal documents.
How often will that inspection need to take place?
It's laid out in the operation and maintenance. It depends on which of the BMPs we're talking about. I think we're talking about cleaning the catch basin, inspecting it 4 times and cleaning it twice annually. Same with the grit separator and oil separator. And then with the infiltration, it's just to inspect it, I think, annually. And we've provided maintenance logs for them to fill out. And if the commission is inclined to approve it, they could make a condition that these logs, be submitted to the commission on the annual basis.
Now, the snow storage area, is that for snow from the street?
Yes, that would be from the street, because we have to continue to maintain access at the end of Fall Street to the land of the Commonwealth. So we can't just plow it down to the end of Falls and the end of the pavement and just leave a big pile that would obstruct that passage. So we're proposing to move it, off to the side and onto that easement area.
Now, just looking at this plan, it seems very close to both the catch basin and the driveway of Lot 3. And it's at an angle from the street area. I'm wondering how convenient or easy it's going to be for somebody, that's a fairly long street, for somebody to plow in there and get the snow in the right spot without clogging up that catch basin.
No, they can continue to plow after the pavement, so that they can move, onto the area beyond the pavement. There's a mountable curb there to kind of move the snow over and along that side of Lot 3, so that they don't block the access and that they don't cover up the catch basin. So they're not just confined to that little narrow between the end of the pavement and the driveway of Lot 3.
So essentially, that snow might end up on part of the state property.
It could, if it's not monitored and tracked. Then it's up to the homeowners association and/or the state to work out as to whether or not that's a problem from the standpoint of the temporary storage of the snow.
Would there be any way to put some kind of a protective barrier, poles or something around that catch basin?
No, but I think it's incumbent upon the homeowners to contract with someone that understands that that's important. Because if they do just pile it at the end and block the catch basin, there's a possibility that when the melt comes, it's going to go into Lot 3's driveway. So I think they've got to stay at it and open it. I guess we could put markers off the pavement just to indicate that there's a catch basin there. But I think, again, if it's, the association needs to make that clear to the contracted snowplow remover.
So this entire street will remain a private way?
Yes.
Is it not able to be adopted by the city, or?
The right-of-way itself is not wide enough to be able to put 28 feet of pavement and vertical granite curbs and so forth. It's only about 24 to 25 feet wide, so it just doesn't have the physical width to be able to build a full subdivision road. So the standard is that, you know, we need to be able to get what's known as an approval not required endorsement of a subdivision to create the 3 lots. We need to prove to the city that we have right to access it and right to improve it, which we've submitted to the city solicitor evidence of that. And then it needs to be improved to a level that is adequate in the eyes of the planning board for safe passage of the residents and anyone else that's going to go there, delivery trucks, emergency vehicles, and so forth. So the bar is not to meet the standard of the subdivision regulations. It's to meet that lower standard of providing ample access. When we get to what does the city want to see before they accept as a city street, then they look to the subdivision regulations and the standards that are set forth in there and say, well, if you can't do that, then it's probably not worthy of acceptance as a public way.
Could you speak about on the plan here, I see there sewer pumps on the 2 new lots. What style or what?
We envision them to be the self-contained, prepackaged, probably Environment 1 units that you essentially hook a gravity sewer from the house into this unit, and the force main comes out of the unit. It's a grinder-style pump. It's got all of the mechanisms and so forth in it, and you hook it into a control panel that goes in the house that has, you know, alarm on it, a high-level alarm on it, and so forth. But these are workhorses. They tend to run for a very long time without any issues.
So each house would be separate?
Each house would have a separate one, right?
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Commissioner Moore?
I was out there today and I noticed that at the Falls Street Pawtucket intersection, there's a pretty substantial lip there, which I assume to keep water from flowing off of Pawtucket down Falls. Is that going to be maintained?
Yeah, that'll be maintained. We'll have to do handicap interface on the sidewalks, but we'll maintain that capture of the Pawtucket gutter line. Then we'll be doing a little bit of leveling, just so that when vehicles come up and stop at the intersection, they're at a good angle to be able to safely see left and right. We've talked to the Sisters of Charity actually to do some work with their fence to improve the visibility left and right. But yeah, we'll contain the drainage and not bring any of the Pawtucket Street drainage down into that area.
And then it also seems to me with the proposed, hopefully you won't be getting any of that gutter flow from Pawtucket, but in the event that you do, or just in a serious rain event, with a 10-degree slope, you'll be getting some pretty serious surface loads even down the street. Is the one catch basin adequate? And will the lip at the foot of the road there be sufficient to pool everything in the event of a heavy rainflow, or should we be looking at more erosion controls beyond that lip, beyond the mountable curb?
We talked about that with the planning board, and that's when we went to the double grade. But we could do some more armament on the down gradient side of that mountable curb, just to make sure if, really big gully washer and an intense summer storm came and it hopped it, that it wouldn't cause erosion. But
Because there's not much, I mean, basically beyond that hay bale line, it's still gonna be a pretty decent slope directly down to the canal. Is that?
well, there's a flat there which is part of the continuation of the gravel road. So it would, if it did go down there, it would have some flatter area to drop the velocity before it made it over to that steep slope that goes from 46 to 36 down to the canal. So, but we can certainly look at extending a little bit out beyond the edge of the pavement and ensure that that area has a good compacted gravel base that, won't erode.
Yeah, I think, so. I mean, from my perspective anyway, something that would reduce the chance of that flow heading straight into the canal would certainly be helpful.
We can do that.
Great, thank you.
Commissioner Mellon?
I notice a lot of proposed retaining walls, but it shows no height. Do you have a typical section of the retaining walls that you're going to put in there?
We haven't decided on exactly what type of wall system we're going to use. It will probably be one of the readily available block type walls. The elevation change from the front lot to the second lot is the greatest, and it's anywhere from 5 to as much as 8 feet. The one between lots 2 and 3 is only 4 feet change. The reason that's done is to provide level plateaus for each of the lots, and also there's a requirement in the city's zoning that says your lot area used towards compliance with the minimum lot area can't be anything greater than 8%. So we're creating that 8% within these yards, which is also conducive for the quality of life for the residents. But it forces us to put these walls in, or we have to put these walls in.
So when you decide on exactly what type of wall you're going to put to retain soil, to keep the lots level,
Yep.
it'll be shown on the drawings?
It's up to the commission. If you desire to show that on for your deliberation, we can show it. Anything over 4 feet would have to be an engineered wall, and it would require a building permit, and plans would have to be submitted to the building commissioner. So,
I noticed that in the text, but I think it would be helpful to have a typical section of.
we can certainly, I can talk to the developer and have him decide on what he's going to use, and then put a typical section in. Looks like we have several items we're going to add to this plan, so we can do that.
Now, as far as the proposed sewer pumps for the force mains from 2 and 3, is there going to be some backup power supply in case the power goes out in the area?
There'll either be a backup power supply or an allotted emergency storage. There'll be, as I said, an alarm, so that the residents will know that there's obviously a problem. Or if they don't have power, then they'll know that they've got a set amount, or they've got to have provisions for backup power.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Lynch?
I noticed on the plan, and you mentioned it earlier, about the existing 3-family going to a 2-family
Yes.
home. Is that going to require any demolition, or is it just going to be sort of reworked within the house?
The back addition will be taken off.
Oh, so this portion right there?
Yes.
On the plan. So demolition will be required for that. Where do you plan on stockpiling the debris? And is it gonna remain there for an extended period of time or taken away right away?
It'll be taken away right away. The plan is to start the demolition at the same time. Because the garage that they're taking down is a two-story structure, it actually has access from the Pawtucket driveway and around back on the lower level. There's some grading to be done, so
Okay.
the new material will be brought in, so there's just not enough room. So we'll
Okay.
remove the demolition material
Okay,
immediately.
thank you.
You had indicated earlier that you had found some fill on the site. Are we concerned, or do you know what the history of the site was?
No, but our only knowledge is that it's, the home is very old, and the grounds have evidence that it's been actually at one time well manicured, and there's a circular garden down the back of the property that actually goes off the property line. So at one time it was very well maintained, but it's our knowledge that it's always been a residential use, and that any of that fill material would just be, we speculate that it's related to that residential use and the use of the property, the maintaining and expansion of the gardens and so forth on the property. We didn't see any, it was fairly good quality film, some debris, some brick pieces and so forth, but by and large, it's soil material.
All right, we're not in fear of finding any coal gasification or anything out there, are we?
No.
Okay. I'm going to open it up in a few minutes, but I'm getting a sense that the commission is requesting some modifications to the plan, so I'm anticipating that this will not be resolved this evening, instead will be continued. However, what I would like to do at this point is open it up. If there was anyone here who would like to offer their comments or concerns regarding this project, kindly step to the podium and identify yourself for the record, please. All right, the chair notes that there's no one here who is to offer their comments or concerns other than the proponent. Mr. Piznola, as I had indicated, the commission is requesting more information on your plan. Do you think you can get that back in a timely manner for our next hearing?
Oh, absolutely, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Do you have any questions on what the commission is requesting?
No, I think I've got everything that's been requested, and we can add those items to the plan.
All right, then at your request, I will entertain a motion to continue to the first November meeting.
Move to continue until November,
I don't know what the
Second.
date is. Second?
Wednesday of November.
No, it would be the second Wednesday.
Nine.
The 9th?
Yeah, the 9th.
Okay,
November 9th.
all right. By Commissioner Varnum, do I have a second on the motion?
Second.
By Commissioner Mellon. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. All right.
Thank you very much. We'll
Thank
see you on
you.
the 9th.
Moving on, notice of intent, Roger Hershon, RB Lowell LLC. Craig, do we get a DEP number on this? Okay, we have a pending DEP file number. The project location is 211 Plain Street, and it's regarding a service driveway installation and related drainage improvements. I would just like to, if you could kindly identify yourself for the record. And
Good
I have
evening.
one comment before you start. Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Tom Liddy from Lucas Environmental. I am here representing the applicant, Roger Hershon, from RD Management. He is in charge of overseeing the Meadowbrook Plaza. Also accompanying me is Steve Golwacki from RJ O'Connell. He was in charge of the civil design for the proposed activities. I would like to drop off the green cards for the abutter notification. So as you mentioned, the project is located at 211 Plain Street. You may recognize it as the Target Plaza. Just to orientate ourselves where we are, maybe I'll come around and show you. So orientated north to south, Target is immediately adjacent to Plain Street. Our proposed activities are actually located at the southern edge of the parcel. The Marshalls and the tech school is where the proposed activities are. In terms of wetland resource areas, there's a small area of BVW immediately to the east, which is actually located off property on the other side of the existing railroad. And then to the east is the River Meadow Brook, which flows from south to north, and that runs parallel to the entire development. And the Lowell connector is on the other side. So what we're proposing to do is to install a service access road along the rear of the existing building. The width of the driveway will range between 24 to 14 feet wide, depending where we're located. Along the southern edge of the limit of work, the driveway will measure 14 feet wide, and that is due to the proximity to the wetlands, as well as it's a pinch point between the property line and the building. In terms of stormwater management, we're proposing to install 2 catch basins with a 4-foot deep sump and hoods, and also some curbing along the edge of the pavement. The curbing will collect and point the runoff to the catch basins, and it will also deter any runoff from flowing onto adjacent properties. And it will also help to prevent vehicles from going further than they're supposed to. The catch basins will tie into the existing drainage system of the entire development. This was redeveloped in 2007, and basically we're just tying into the existing line. The entire plaza does have an operation and maintenance plan in terms of inspections and street sweeping. The proposed access drive will follow in suit with that. Essentially, what we're proposing is to inspect the catch basins annually. If there's any sediment or anything that needs to be removed, it will be cleaned at that time. And as I mentioned, the parking area is swept twice a year. So basically that's it in a nutshell. In terms of the wetland is actually separated from the property by the railroad. Essentially it's kind of like a drainage. It's a low point where the drainage from the neighbor kind of collects. So it's a small wetland, but it does.
If I could ask you to speak into the microphone, thanks.
Sorry. The wetland does tie into the Meadowbrook system. However, we are approximately 50 to 100 feet away from that resource area. So with that, I will turn it over to the commission with any questions you may have.
What is What is behind, the comment I wanted to make originally was we're awaiting a DP file number, and just so you understand, we will not close the hearing until such time that we've reviewed the DEP comments that generally come along with their file number, so, okay.
Okay.
The, my question is, you're extending an alleyway or an access way to connect that triangular lot that's to the south of the
That's-
building?
That's correct. Currently, there's a Marshall's building. The tenants here have expressed interest in delivering goods and merchandise in through the front, into the back, and through the back of the building, instead of, I believe right now, they're bringing it in through the front.
What is there now?
There is a Marshall's, and then there's...
No, what is on that space where you're proposing the access road?
Down to the south, it's turf grass right now. As we go further north, this area has some broken pavement, but it's impervious right now. There's no pavement currently.
I'm surprised that was ever approved by the fire department, considering that there was no back access to that building. There's no grass or hard pack alleyway back there now?
No. Right, it's grass. So that's another reason for this. I mean, if someone had to get back here, they wouldn't be able to drive.
All right. How wide is this access road?
It ranges in width depending where it is. Down to the south, you can see some of the grass area will remain grass. And at the narrowest point, I believe it's 14 feet wide. And that is due to the presence of existing infrastructure. There's some overhead wires and some telephone poles and some other utilities out there. So that's where it's the most narrow.
So if I understand this correct, at no point are you closer, or no point of your limit of work is closer than the 50-foot buffer, but you're almost entirely within the 100-foot buffer to this bordering vegetated wetland.
That's correct.
All right. Now, but, and again, you've got the railroad. I know the railroad tracks are right there too, right behind those buildings. And
That's correct.
all right, the tracks separate the wetland area. What sort of, other than the catch basins, are you proposing any sort of berm along the eastern side of that access road?
That's correct. We're proposing a berm, and that will collect and direct the runoff into the catch basins. So there shouldn't be any discharge of runoff off property. We're keeping it all on site and directing it to the catch basins, the stormwater system.
Lastly, there's a dumpster back there somewhere, isn't there?
There's a dumpster right here at the very southern end, and we are proposing to relocate that.
Is that going to be a permanent relocation?
Yes. Point out where Okay. The existing dumpster is right here. We're proposing to relocate it out here. It's actually further away from the wetlands.
All right, may I suggest during construction that the dumpster is relocated away from the resource areas? The fear obviously is, the continued movement of it, breach of the dumpster or whatnot, while the construction phase is ongoing. It should be placed in a reasonably secure area, but away from the River Meadow Brook on the western side and the wetland on eastern side, so, you may want to get it, you know, at least situate in that lower triangle parking lot area, or, you know, just, or even in the main part of the parking area, just away from, you know, the work area while you're doing, are you going to have a staging area for equipment?
In terms of a staging area for equipment, I believe, Steve? The staging will occur in the existing parking lot to the south of the proposed access driveway.
How, right now, is that lower triangular lot utilized extensively?
When I was out there, there were cars parked out there. It's largely from the technical school, technical school from, that I imagine it's mostly there during the day. So those spaces are utilized, but there was plenty of overflow parking out in front of the building as well as down here.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it would seem that you could pull that dumpster, you know, away from the work area and the staging area to give the you know, the waste contractor adequate ingress and egress to the area, and also, you know, to prevent it from, you know, becoming an obstacle to the contractors. You know, I mean, just, you never know what's going to happen, but, you know, keeping it away from the work area is always a prudent thing.
Yes, I imagine the contractor, once he gets in there, I mean, they can move that dumpster anywhere. I mean, I imagine they would try to keep it out of the work area just for their own.
All right, when are you planning on doing this?
We'd like to start construction, you know, as soon as possible would be ideal, and prior to the winter. And actually, with regards to the DEP file number, we were curious if the commission was willing to entertain not closing the hearing, but closing the public input, or closing the hearing contingent on DEP issuing a file number with no comments. At that point, if DEP issues their file number and no comments, you know, tomorrow or the next day, there wouldn't be a need to come back to the second hearing, if that's at all possible.
We have not done that in the past, and I wouldn't invite setting a precedent at this point in time to do that. You'll hear from the rest of the commission. I, for one, would not be in favor of that. I understand your time constraints. You're probably up against the batch plant closures for the season. What traditionally we have done in situations where a DEP number was pending is well, first of all, by law, we cannot close the public hearing. We can discuss the substantive issues that are been raised tonight and before the board, but without a DEP file number, the public comment period can't be closed. It has to remain open until DEP issues the number. We don't meet, you know, we meet bi-weekly basically, and seeing that this is the end of the month, rolling over into a new month, it may even be more than, it may be 3 weeks. Today is the 25th, I believe, right? So we're not meeting for another 3 weeks, actually, so.
Oh, is that so?
I actually believe we will make 2 weeks from, we'll meet 2 weeks from
okay.
tonight.
So, all right, so we are in the 2 week zone. So but again, it's not a precedent that I'm, at least as one voting member of the commission, would be willing to do. And again, I understand your constraints, but it's it's to foreclose any public comment based on important information that may come back is not a prudent thing for this commission, I don't believe, to do. Well, I am going to open it up right now for other comments by the commission. Commissioner Chalupka?
Can you just explain, the road starts in the, like, to the right of in the Marshall's parking lot, and then it will come out, it doesn't continue to Peyton Street? It goes around the building and comes out in between Marshall's and the Blockbuster building?
Right. Well, there is an existing service road in the rear of all the other buildings. This is the only building that doesn't have one.
I see.
So basically, you can kind of see in the darker gray area is the area that we're tying into. So this is all paved currently. We're just extending this down behind this rear of the building to the adjacent parking lot.
So does the Marshalls have, like, loading docks and stuff in the back of the building that they need to access with the trucks? Like, how have they been getting their deliveries?
If I may address some of the comments, as the engineer of the plan, I may be able to clarify a little further. My name is Stephen Glowacki with RGO and Carla. We're the civil engineers on the project. To clarify the access, there is existing pavement up to this portion, and the service road extension will continue along the back of the east side of the building. There is an existing loading area that's utilized over here, and our intent in extending the pavement is to include this as a common loading area for the other tenants along this building.
All right, thank you. I don't have any other questions.
Commissioner Varnum?
No questions at this time.
Commissioner Moore?
No, I have no further questions. The railroad tracks make a pretty effective barrier there.
Commissioner Mellon?
You mentioned you're going to install some curb to carry the runoff to the catch basin. What type of curb are you going to planning on using?
If I may, we're going to match the curbing on site and use precast concrete with the 6-inch reveal along this portion of the back, which would obviously control and collect the water into these low points, into these catch basin areas.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Lynch?
I don't have any further questions.
How long do you anticipate the construction of the access road to take?
I can't imagine the construction would take more than 3 or 4 weeks for such a project. There's not much installation of pavement. And to clarify, by the way, although our desire would be to press forward and do construction, realistically, a more realistic time frame may not be until the spring to do those activities, pending other factors.
Okay, I don't know what other time constraints you're up against. I'm gonna throw out one other option. I mean, assuming that you were up against a time constraint, is that we could treat this as a request for determination of applicability. Seeing that all the work is merely just buffer zone, it's entirely outside of the 50-foot buffer zone area and only within, and some portion of it only within the 100-foot buffer zone, but even then, the work is separated from the jurisdictional area by, one, a building to the west, and by a railroad bed and tracks to the east, which establish a fairly substantial barrier to any impacts to the resource areas. And I'll open that up I'll open that up to the commission. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, and I'm not sure whether, whether or not under the stormwater management policies and practices that we can consider that. I'll ask that question of Craig, but that's another possibility. We do have a filing for a notice of intent, but we could consider this as a request for determination of applicability. I understand this work is extensive, and I would rather not do that. But if, as you characterize, that realistically you have other concerns and that you probably won't be starting construction until the spring anyway.
Yes, if I may introduce the owner, Roger Hirschhorn,
Yeah.
who can elaborate a little further about some of the constraints.
Good evening. The constraint wasn't a construction constraint. The constraint, frankly, is a contractual constraint.
Is a what?
Is a contractual constraint on a closing date with, we're buying the property from Target. And the approval for the installation of the road is a critical component of us moving forward to revitalize the shopping center, because the tenants I'm working with to put them into that space that's in between Marshall's and Lincoln Tech are requiring rear loading. And without the road in the back, I won't have the rear loading, and without the rear loading, I don't have the tenants, and without the tenants, I probably don't move forward. So that's the time constraints. Just wanted to clarify that for the board.
So if I understand, then I'm being a little thick here, that if this were to be continued pursuant to a pending DEP file number for 2 weeks, and assuming no other difficulties, and it was approved at that point in time, would that impact then on your time schedule?
Yes, I mean, not on the time schedule from a construction perspective, but from a contractual perspective, yes, because the deadline, if you will, that I have with Target is November. It's either November 1st or November 2nd. I forget. And I don't expect DEP is going to have comments, but I don't know. But it's a risk, obviously, to move forward without knowing that, that road is approved.
I understand. So it's not so much the construction schedule that can be done in the spring. It's more your contractual obligation. You have a condition, obviously, that you're able to do this, that must be met prior to our next meeting.
That's correct, and I'm trying to get a comfort level that, the approval will be forthcoming.
Okay, all right, I understand.
Thank you.
I can't, that being said, and I think you're probably getting a feel for the way this commission is leading by the lack of questions, but two, also, at least my suggestion, that we could treat this as an RDA as opposed to a notice of intent. I'm not getting a feel here, and I'm just going to speak for myself, but also, also knowing some of the members on the commission, I'm getting a feel that this isn't something that we're looking at. I'm not going to say with less than a critical eye, but it's not what we would consider a rather large project, and you've seemed to have met, at least as far as I'm concerned, the performance standards as required under the Act and in the city bylaw. I can only speak for myself. Pending some unforeseen situation, I would most likely vote in favor of this and vote in favor of a order of conditions. That being said, I won't do it until we get a DEP file number, though. Okay. So, whether or not that allays any of your concerns or not, it's business. There's risks. There's unacceptable risks and there's acceptable risks. Only you can make that decision. What I would like to do, at least, is are there any comments, other comments pursuant to what's just been discussed from the commission? Commissioner, I'll go backwards this time. Commissioner Lynch, Commissioner Mellon, Commissioner Moore, Commissioner Varnum.
I think I'd feel more comfortable dealing with this as a notice of intent, since that's what was submitted, rather than second guess what they should have done.
Thanks. Commissioner Chalupka? All right. Then at your request, then, I'll entertain a motion to continue this till the November 9th meeting. I would suggest that you, do we know if DEP has issued a file number just in the last, this afternoon?
The DEP website is typically 24 hours behind whatever information they have, and so if one was issued, it would have been issued today. I believe that the project representative, as well as I, called our contacts at DEP to try and get a little more information as to what exactly was happening. This is a little bit longer than is typical, although DEP has been known to drag the process to issue a file number, although not as much as 4 weeks, which would be the next timeline for the issuance of a number. But I'm uncertain as to what the situation is.
All right. Unfortunately, what I would, again, I'm not hearing any concerns from the commission. What I would suggest then is there's really no need for any of you to come back on the 9th. I mean, the commission will just consider it as is presented tonight. I'm going to open it up in just a few minutes for comments, but the commission most likely will consider it, at that if as we've done in the past, if we're just awaiting a DEP file number, then we receive the file number, we open the hearing, we call for comments, and then it gets closed. With no other comments from the commission, is there anyone here who would like to offer their comments or concerns regarding this project? And again, this is the all right, the chair notes that there's no one here to offer their comments or concerns. All right, do I have a motion to continue?
I make a motion to continue to the November 9th meeting.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? The ayes have it. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I apologize, I missed who seconded that motion again.
By Commissioner Mellon. I would suggest stay in contact with Craig, and if the DEP file number issues, he will most likely be able to give you whether or not, at least one of you should come in, but my guess is, I mean, it may be prudent to have at least one of you here, just in case there are some concerns, so you can answer those, but other than that. Here's Mr. Gill. Okay. Moving on, I'm gonna call these together because they're both the same. They're both related to each other. There are two requests for certificate of compliance, both regarding the estate of Louis M. Saab, Peter S. Joseph, co-administrator, concerning two DEP file numbers. One is 206176, the project location being Lot 1, Shirley Avenue. The second one, the same proponent, concerning DEP file number 206151, the project location being 575 and 595 Pawtucket Boulevard. Mr. Gill, if you could identify yourself for the record.
Yes, just for the record, my name is Robert Gill, registered civil engineer and land surveyor. The office is in Andover, Mass. And a request was made by Brad Pacheco of the estate of Louis Saab, and submitted a letter October 24th requesting a certificate of compliance for the 575, 595 Pawtucket Boulevard. Reviewed the original order of conditions, and this building is sat for quite a while now, and went out and checked the elevations and drew up an as-built plan, and I believe it complies with the order of conditions that I had gone over. And I'll just keep it brief and open it to any questions from the board members that they may have regarding the site.
Yeah, we, as a commission, we just received these plans this evening, the as-built plans, just prior to the meeting. So we haven't had a chance to digest them.
Oh, okay, yeah, we just made them up over the weekend there. Brad had submitted to you and then contacted us at a late date, so.
Yeah, the second thing is, I for one would like an opportunity. This project was approved and these orders of condition predate I think Commissioner Varnum was the only one on the commission when this project was approved back in the 80s.
Yeah, the board may want to look it over to make sure that everything's been done. I went through them, but again, it's the board's decision.
So I have no memory of the details of the project, so I'd like to review the file and get a sense for, what was ordered and what was discussed and what was conditioned.
Certainly. You want to continue it, Mr. Chairman?
Well, yeah, I'm going to open it up to see if there's any just preliminary questions based on just a brief perusal of the plan, but pretty much we'll be continuing it anyway, regardless. So, Commissioner Chaluka.
I would like to see the original filing, because I have no idea what it was supposed to be, so I've nothing to compare it to, so I'd like to see that and maybe do a visit as well.
Commissioner Varnum.
I'm thinking perhaps we could get a copy of the order of conditions sent out to us before the next meeting, so we could see what was actually on there.
Yes, the plan is for the next meeting. I was waiting to receive the as-built, and then I will send the original plans and the orders of condition. Actually, in reviewing the file, the applicant and the attorney and the various representatives should be aware that I believe there's actually a third open notice or order of conditions for the property. I can provide the file number, and the same as-built will suffice, as again, it's all tied into the same contiguous parcels. But there was a third order of conditions issued under DEP file number 206, I believe 354 or 357. Again, I can check that and confirm the number with you, but it again, based on the timeline with the request for a certificate of compliance and the likelihood of a continuance tonight, it's not a problem to submit an additional third request, again, utilizing the same as-built. It's the same simple form, and that can be considered jointly as this is being considered jointly tonight.
Excuse me, do you know if those were superseding orders? Will one supersede the other, or was it? I had only seen the last one.
It's tricky, but typically they only supersede each other if it's for essentially the same project. Or this, as you know, you can have multiple projects on a single parcel. So I haven't reviewed the substantial differences in the filing. It's because both of the parcels in consideration are entirely within, or I believe entirely within the 100-year floodplain.
Yes.
Any work proposed for any portion of the parcels would require notice of intent. So I believe there were more or less 3 proposals: the construction of the building, the addition of the parking lot, and then some either stormwater or landscaping improvements that were created.
Correct.
That third stormwater landscaping plan, I believe, is the file number that was not included in this current submission.
All right, we'll look those all three over.
And I can actually provide that information after the hearing tonight. I can get the file number from my office, so you
Excellent.
can review that.
Okay, thank you very much.
That was my recollection, that the most recent order of conditions concerned the area around the transformer pad and perhaps an enhanced sort of a swale in that area. So I would think that that would need to be addressed perhaps as well on
Take some
the
more details in
as-built.
that area. I had looked it over just generally, but I'll check that out.
Commissioner Moore?
Yeah, I'd just like a little address clarity, since we've got the three addresses, the Shirley Ave, and then 575 and 595 are mentioned. But since it looks like the AAA building's at 585, are they actually not contiguous parcels? That's,
Not sure, Brad, would you know of the numbering on that?
The order of conditions had 575 on there, the actual property address is
Mr.
595. I put both on.
Mr. Pacheco, could I have you identify yourself for the record?
Yep, my name's Attorney Brad Pacheco with an office at 175 Central Street.
Thank
I
you.
apologize, I'm not dressed accordingly, I didn't
That's-
realize I was going to be speaking tonight.
That's fine, you're on TV, so smile.
okay, so 575 is not actually in the picture?
It's, I believe the actual property address is 595, but the order of conditions...
If you could speak into the microphone.
Yep, I apologize. The property address is 595 Pawtucket Boulevard, but the order of conditions recites 575, so I didn't want there to be any misunderstanding, so I put both addresses, so...
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner
Moore,
Miller?
if I may, the original order that, for 575 Pawtucket Boulevard, rather, was issued before some of the most recent modernization and standardization of our street number system. So typically what we've had in the past, and this is common all over the city, is what's called an affectionate address, which is an address that is known to the property, but is not technically the street address, and that those were poorly coordinated in the past. We now have them coordinated in our central database, but this would not be the first instance of this. I don't know about exactly what happened here, but that would be my guess.
Thank you. Commissioner Millen?
Yeah, I'd like to see the past history on this parcel.
Commissioner Lynch?
Just to reiterate what the rest of the commission has said, you know,
Yeah,
saying the
I don't think
original plan.
everybody's had enough time, as Mr. Chairman Chris said.
Exactly, so we'd
All right.
appreciate that.
Okay, then at your request, a motion to continue by
Motion to continue.
Commissioner Varnum, seconded by
Second,
Commissioner Mellon. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Okay. That'll be the November 9th
November 9th.
hearing. Yeah, and if you could track down, Craig can probably supply you with the DEP file number on the third order of conditions. It may not have been recorded, and that's probably why you didn't find it. That happens.
Okay, do you want to just email it to me?
The
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much for your
All right.
time.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board.
I'm going to take an item out of order. We have the minutes next on the agenda, but there are folks here under other business, and we have as listed on the agenda, review of an order of conditions for DEP file number 2060668, and that's a project at 103 Fotine Drive. I'm not sure what this is. Mr. Laney, if you could identify yourself for the record, please.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, Kenneth Lanier, Cornerstone Land Consultants. representing the applicant this evening, which are with me, both DK Patel, the owner, as well as the contractor that completed the work out at the site. Mr. Chairman, we're before you this evening to just review the project itself. We are prepared to complete the certificate of compliance for the work that was proposed on the original order. I did bring some photographs that I'd like to pass out to the commission tonight, but ultimately we're here to discuss some additional work that the homeowner would like to see done, and we wanted to just verify, after having discussions with Mr. Thomas, whether an amended order would be required, or if the board would wish us to come in, under a new NOI, or if this is something we could do under the current order that we have. So I'm going to just hand out that information. Mr. Chairman, as you may recall or may not, the original application had proposed to put in an addition located to the property at 103 Full-Time Drive. The addition was a two-car garage with family rooms located directly above it. In addition to that, we were expanding out the driveway into the area of the 50-foot buffer zone. So we had filed the notice of intent with the board. The board had approved an order of conditions, and we went forward and constructed what was originally proposed. As you can see from the photographs that we've provided, vegetation has been established, both on the side adjacent to the installed driveway, as well as to the front yard area, which was, adjusted in elevation. Stone wall was installed as approved on the original plans. Plantings were done. And in addition, the actual applicant went a little bit above and beyond, and you can see at the very edge of the I would say the 25-foot no disturb line, they installed some shrubs located in that area, just as an additional buffer zone area. We're before you tonight because we were requesting, it's kind of a unique request, Mr. Chairman. As you can see on the plan I provided you with it, which is a progress as-built of what's been done out on the property, there is a tree line located on the rear property line. That tree line is evident in the photos on the second page of photographs that I provided. There's one on the top left and one on the bottom right. There are two trees there that are located pretty much parallel with the edge of the house. One of those trees I feel is in, a fairly bad status. You can see from the vegetation, it's kind of bare. Some of the actual limbs are bare. And there's also a birch tree in that area that has pretty much died. The applicant was wondering if we could remove those two trees. They are outside of the wetland area, but they are within the 25-foot no disturb zone, Mr. Chairman. So I felt it'd be important for us to ask permission from this commission to allow us to do that before he had anybody go in there and remove those trees. In addition, they do have a screened-in porch that's shown on the rear of the house. It's grade. You can see it. It's a 10 by 14 box that is on the rear of the house. It's, I would say, about 1/3 outside of the 100-foot buffer zone and about 2/3 inside the 100-foot buffer zone. he was hoping that he could add an additional 14 feet approximately onto that screened-in porch. That would bring it closer to the wetland area. So we wanted to just get the commission's feelings on that. Again, that would just be a screened-in porch with, obviously a little stairway and a deck to get into. It would be installed on sonotubes. Would have no foundation associated with it. So we're here tonight to just get comments from the commission, whether you feel as though this is something we could complete under our existing order of conditions with possibly an updated plan submitted to Craig for the file, or if you'd like me to come forward with an amendment.
We have a grab bag of stuff here tonight. One, the trees, for future reference, something like that. And I understand you're here now, and your engineer has you here now, and it's probably more so because of the screen porch than anything. But in the future, a tree, your best options on something like that is, are you taking them down yourself, or are you having a tree removal company do it? Okay. Generally, what I would do in the future is get a quote from your tree removal company and submit the quote along with a letter to Craig, especially seeing that it's in a resource area, and then he'll generally contact commission members and determine whether or not we're concerned about it or not. For me, I'm just going to say, if I'm looking at your pictures, trees die, if they're in risk of coming down, take them down. Okay, you'll hear more comments from the rest of the commission. But as far as the porch goes, that's you're off the reservation there. That I don't think was contemplated. I perhaps would suggest maybe an RDA filing for something like that. I mean, it doesn't seem to be overly obtrusive, but we don't have anything before us now.
Correct.
Other than just some discussion about it. I mean, you would have to submit an updated plan regardless.
The only reason I'm here, Mr. Chairman, because we were in the position to do the filing for the COC, and what I didn't want to have happen is I file for the COC, we close out the order, and then we want to come back in, we have to file a whole new notice of intent, new application fees, notification to abutters. Yeah.
I'm not sure that would be something that would be appropriate as far as an amended order or modification to an order. It's really beyond the scope of the original notice of intent and the public hearing process that was a part of that. I think, for your own peace of mind and for your own, since you're going to need an engineer regardless, it would be to file an RDA. Okay. Clearly you're within the buffer zone, whether or not, and again, you'll hear comments from the commission, but knowing what I know of the property, from having been out there a couple of times, I wouldn't, I'm assuming it's in the general area that shows in the grade-in box that's there now?
Absolutely, sir. Yeah.
So, all right, Commissioner Chalupka?
I don't have any comments. I mean, as far as the porch, I'd like to see more information about how you would build that. I think that, this project is already, I don't know, it's already within the buffer zone. Like, I just feel like little by little, I'm not feeling good about it, that's all.
Commissioner Varnum?
I'd like to take a look at the trees. Could you describe which ones they are?
Absolutely. If I come up to the table, if that's all right.
this one right here.
This one? Where's the second one? Oh, this one?
What kind of tree is that second one? Is that a maple?
It is a maple, yes, ma'am.
As far as the screen porch goes, is that the small square on the back of the building that shows on this?
That currently, the small square on the rear of the building is an existing screen porch. We'd like to increase that, so double the size. So that screen porch would be added on to the, you know, it would be located where that 50-foot dimension area is. So take that square and add one more square right beside it.
So, next to the house, not going backwards from the street?
Looking for some questioning? Yes,
Right there?
Yes, ma'am. Take this, put it here. So that screen porch now, instead of being 10 by 14, would be 10 by 28.
Okay.
So ideally, it would come in no closer than the original addition that was approved, but it would be in the rear of the house, which is still within the buffer zone.
And you would have a stairway, you said?
Yes, because this is raised, the porch itself is raised, there would be like 2 or 3 wooden steps that would, you know, go to a landing to get into that screened-in porch. But it all would be within the area.
Yeah, I don't feel there's a problem with the porch, but I would like to take a look at the area and also take a look at the trees.
Commissioner Moore?
It just kind of feels like a strange fit to be adding stuff on now. In terms of the actual certificate of compliance, things look good from what I can see, but I'd like to see more detail on the screen porch, certainly.
Yeah, well, it's not here yet on a certificate of compliance. This still just would be work under the existing order. Commissioner Mellon?
Likewise, I have the same concern.
Commissioner Lynch?
I agree with what the commission has said. As far as the trees go, if they're in any way a hazard, definitely, you know, take them down. But as far as the screened-in porch, I don't think that including it as an amended order as part of the current order of conditions would be appropriate. I think if anything, you know, an RDA would be sufficient and not a full-blown notice of intent. But definitely need more information on it before we can make a decision.
Very good. All right. Can you do us a favor and mark the 2 trees on
Absolutely.
the site? Thank you. And perhaps what color?
I'll use orange ribbon.
All right. Well, yeah, it is fall. Nice looking foliage, by the way. So.
So ultimately, it appears like what I'll plan on doing then is just coming in for the COC as it is, under the current order. We'll do that at the next hearing. And I'll also submit an RDA for the addition of the screen porch then. And the commission would be comfortable with that.
Correct.
All right, wonderful.
And delay the removal of the trees until
Yes, sir.
Until you hear back from Craig, or?
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you.
All right, wonderful. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time this evening. Have a good afternoon.
Do I have, we still have more other business, but do I have a motion on the minutes from May 25th? To either approve, modify, amend?
I move to accept the minutes from May 25th.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. Those are approved. Craig, could you fill us in on what's, how the peer review process is going for the Temple project.
Yes, as required by the commission at the last hearing, I drafted a solicitation for bids from peer review consultants, which are the same type of environmental consultants we deal with for most projects. There was an issue in reviewing the, well, I don't know how the commission feels about the familiarity with the potential reviewer. I had at first thought it might be more appropriate to try and work with some of the local firms who I think are more comfortable with, who have come before the commission on previous occasions. Unfortunately, it turns out that that is not the easiest solution to bring on a reviewer, because again, the third-party reviewer is really a professional consultant for the commission in this process. And anyone who acts for a municipality before any board or commission then has to take a one-year cooling-off period per the state ethics law before they can come again before that board or commission. So for example, the last firm we had here, Cornerstone Land, who's presented to us before, were they to come before the commission and act as the expert consultant for the commission, would then be barred from presenting on behalf of private clients for a year. I was capable of providing that solicitation to local groups, but after explaining the situation to several, many of them admitted that they would be unlikely that they would submit a bid, which I thought made sense. So I actually asked for feedback from the DEP and from other commissions in the greater region. I received 5 names of qualified surveying and environmental consulting firms, and then send out the bid last week with a required return date of this Friday, 2 days from tonight. I've already received 2.5 responses. The half is a recommendation to one of the responses I've yet to receive, so I assume that that one will also be in by the deadline this Friday. And the total scope as defined by the commission, again, was to review all wetland flagging on the site, to review the northeast corner of the property beyond the item flagged as 60B by Norris Environmental Services, an area we all believe to have some resource areas worth flagging, but that was not flagged at the time of the last public hearing, to review the other wetlands as noted on the site, and to investigate investigate additionally on parcel 2, an area that the neighbors and neighborhood residents indicated was another resource area that was a part of the scope of the bid, and additionally attendance at least one commission meeting to report back on the findings. Now, I also added, as a part of the bid process, an hourly rate to cover additional items as requested by the commission. I tried to be as comprehensive in the scope as possible, and this is why I asked for a little bit of specificity at the last meeting, to put into the solicitation exactly what the commission had requested, so that it was clear both to the consulting firms that were bidding, but also to the applicant, who in the end will be paying for this service. They have the right to appeal the selection of a consultant, not the vote under our regulations that were accepted, the requirement of a third party in general, but they have the right to appeal the selection that I'll make of the consultant, which is based either on a presumed conflict of interest or a lack of qualifications. And I can assure you that I only reached out to firms that were not in a position where a conflict of interest could arise and were well respected in the environmental consulting community.
Do we anticipate getting the proposals back for our next meeting so we can consider them?
Yes, the proposals will all be before the commission for I will receive them by this Friday if they are to be considered. Then there are 2 tracks we can take. One would be for me to bring the proposals before the commission for review and selection of a consultant. Alternately, I could, in consultation with other Department of Planning and Development staff, select a consultant and issue them a notice to proceed as soon as possible. My concern is that I want to get a consultant out while there's enough vegetation to do a review of the flagging with some vegetation. Soil review will probably be required, but it's always best, as the commission knows, to do both vegetation and a soil analysis for a wetlands flagging. If we wait too long, then I worry that there will be no vegetation, substantive vegetation left with which to check the flagging?
Speaking for myself, my preference is, and I don't believe the regulation requires us as commissioners other than to request a peer review of a project, but I don't believe we as a commission need to become involved in the actual selection process of who does the work at the bidding of the commission. The presumption is obviously that the engineer is so qualified, or that the outfit is so qualified to do the work, and is otherwise qualified under the request for proposal that the city submits and solicits, and otherwise meets the requirements of the statute and the bylaw. I guess I'm more concerned that that the process is just ongoing, and that we'll be able to meet the timetables that we've imposed. This is coming back not at the, it is coming back at the first November date, so that will at least be able to have something in place in a timely manner prior to that meeting. Or are we meeting is this coming back the first November?
Yes, November 9th.
Okay, all right, so that will have something in place, not just a not just a selection, but some substance back from the peer review process.
Yep. Per our regulations, the commission's input is not required on the selection of the consultant, but it's clearly not an unreasonable request to be involved in that process.
I don't know how the rest of I'll open it up. I don't know how the rest of the commission feels. I'm comfortable that the staff, yourself included, are more than capable of selecting the appropriate expert based on the guidelines of the rules and regulations and what was discussed in the hearing. Whether if there's any other comments from the commission, now's the time, because it's the first time we've done this. So I just would like to, kick the tires and shake out all the cobwebs and the rugs and let's get this moving. So
yeah, it's going to be a very tight. Well, I don't mean to cut off any commission discussion, but one other item to consider is it will be tight to get substantive feedback by the November 9th meeting, but an administrative approval would make that a possibility. Obviously, bringing it to the next meeting would negate that possibility.
all right. Are there any questions?
I don't have any problem having the staff do the selection process. And it'll eliminate us being involved in it.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting that will be true in all cases, but there may be situations where there's a particular concern from the commission that can be addressed by a particular peer review process and by a particular expertise in the area, but I'm not seeing that here.
Again, the regulations as drafted neither require nor preclude the engagement of the commission. So.
Right.
I would agree with Craig that it's important to get someone out there as quickly as possible because the leaves are falling and it is a lot more difficult. As long as the firm was qualified and had no conflict of interest, I don't have any problem with the administrator choosing.
A part of the solicitation was a full statement of qualifications, and so that is a part of each bid. It's not just a bid on the work, but also then a narrative and resumes of appropriate personnel as to their ability to perform the work.
All right, is there any other business to discuss?
No, I'm trying to think. I don't think I have any other filings on the horizon that I have discussed in the
All right.
in the recent past.
Okay, we don't have anything to sign, so I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Can't stay here.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Seconded by
Second.
Commissioner Chalupka, motion by Commissioner Lynch. All in favor? Opposed? The ayes have it. Good night.